call this hearing for moving to work to order at 12:05 p.m.
And now, Janet, do you mind just, I just want to confirm that the meeting, just if you could ask me if the meeting has been warned properly.
Has the meeting been properly warned, Christine?
Yes, it has. So the meeting has been properly warned. A public notice of the meeting went out into the Brattleboro Reformer on October 8th. The completed draft of the Moving to Work plan is available on our website at brattleborohousing.org. This information was also posted on our Facebook page. We also had 2 robocalls that went out on November 3rd and November 9th to residents. We also sent this information to the Community Advisory Committee on October 12th. Hold on one second.
Just going to say excellent. And now the meeting is open for comments, questions, and to be directed to our Executive Director, Christine Hazzard.
And Janet, sorry, you just need to make a motion to open the meeting with the staff.
I thought I had done. I move that, that this hearing, as duly warned, be open now for comments.
Great, thank you. So I'm unmuting everyone.
Yes.
Yep.
I had a question.
Yes.
How does this change affect Brattleboro housing financially?
Okay. I'm happy to answer that. I'm just going to mute everybody while I answer the back noise. Okay, so it doesn't give us any additional money. What it does is it gives us flexibility to change the way we spend some of our money and allocate some of our money. That would be identified primarily in the plan in the first year, where we look at how we would change some of the administrative tasks and streamline our internal processes. This one area that we're really looking to streamline would be the recertification process. Right now, we currently do complete recertification paperwork for all of our residents once a year, which is very laborious for our staff and can be extremely stressful for our residents. And where we have seen that there's very little change is among the residents who live at senior sites and at sites that house adults with disabilities, because their income changes the variable of their income changes very slightly. And so we're looking at not completing that paperwork yearly, but instead investigating if we would be able to do it every 3 years. And so that would allow us to have some flexibility with our staff to then use their resources in a different area. That may mean that we could then reallocate some of them to be working maybe on purging our wait list so that we go through our wait list faster. Or it could be that we're looking at internal processes to help support residents in a different capacity. So I'm going to unmute now, see if that answered your question.
One more question.
Yes, of course.
So what prompted this change?
Great question. Hold on one second. I'm going to mute. So what prompted the change was, well, first of all, this program wasn't available for us for a long time. It wasn't open. There had only been, I believe, 40 something moving to work programs throughout the country. Keene is one that's the only one that was local, and they weren't accepting applications for this program. We had looked at the program for a long time, dating back years ago, and we thought that given our community of Brattleboro, we thought that it would help us to meet the needs of the community of Brattleboro to have some flexibility. The HUD guidelines are very, very strict, and many of them are really based on housing organizations that are much larger than our community. We also thought that it would be nice to have, you know, we get a lot of people offer us a lot of insight as to what they think we should do, and many times we're unable to do those things because we have very strict HUD rules. And so this would allow us to really listen to what our residents are looking for and what our community is looking for and attempt to develop programs specifically for them. And so to answer your question, this isn't something that came up recently. We actually filed our application over 2 years ago. And so then our application, we knew that there was going to be a little bit of a process, but you know, so going back about 2 years and longer, Chris Hart had introduced the idea of the program, and then we met as a staff and we talked about it. We met with Keene Housing Authority twice and talked to their staff. And then we started talking to the community. We had 8 different resident meetings at 4 different housing sites. And we also met with our the community advisory committee to talk to them. And so after all of that, we decided that yes, we wanted to put an application in. We submitted the application in December of 2017. And then we decided, and then we waited. We did not hear from HUD until the end of August, beginning of September of this year. And when we did hear from them, they said, okay, you won the lottery, but you still have to do some work. And so we started that work in August because we had a very tight timeline to get our plan in. So we've had 2 resident meetings, we've had 2 staff meetings, and we've discussed this with the board. And now we're finally at the hearing stage. So I think that should give you a little bit of background of where we're at. So it wasn't a recent decision. It's something that we've been working on for several years. So that
If you were no longer under HUD guidelines, what guidelines are you under?
Well, we would still be under some HUD guidelines. Hold on one second. We would still be under some HUD guidelines. We would still need to provide affordable housing to our residents. We have no plans at all to change the rent allocation. We would still need to apply to some rules, but there are instances that we could change things. Like, so in looking at the plan, some of the ideas would be, right now we have very strict guidelines around what our housing has to look like. And so, for instance, something came up at one of our resident meetings where a resident was saying that she lives with her parents and she also lives with her children. So she has a multi-generational house at one of our family sites. And she has stairs, which are very hard for her parents, but we don't have any housing for family without stairs. And so this would allow us to maybe redevelop some of our housing based on what the needs are of our community. Another resident brought up the idea that he has partial custody of his children. Now, under the HUD guidelines, you need to have 51% of custody in order to get a second bedroom. So when his children come to visit him, he doesn't, you know, he still has to share a space with them. And so this would maybe allow us to look at how our housing could look differently. It may also, you know, we might also decide that we wanted to create housing that meets a specific need in our community. And that might be homeless, you know, youth coming out of the foster system. It may, you know, there's a wide variety of groups that need housing. And so it would allow us to begin looking at what our community needs and then how we could try to meet those needs. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I also recall Chris Hart saying that there was no middle point in HUD's regulations, that you were either a small housing authority, I think it was under 250 units, or you were a big housing authority with all of the regulations applying to the big one. So this flexibility would make a big difference.
Yes. Yes, Byron.
I know it would be down the road, but I just want
One
to say I
second,
think
I'm gonna mute everybody except for you. Hold on.
Christine, you need to unmute Byron.
I did. Thanks. I got it now, Byron.
I just wanted to say it'd be wonderful if down the road we could do something about helping people aging out of foster care.
I agree. It definitely is a need in our community. There's many needs, but that is definitely an identified need as well. And I think it would be wonderful that we could at least even begin to explore that, where we've never really been able to do that previously. Yes, Janet.
Just seeing some staff members participating in the hearing, I would be interested in their comments on the draft. I know everybody has worked hard on it, but it would be interesting to me to know what seems most valuable in this change.
Okay, I'm going to unmute everyone, and Ash, if you'd like to speak, let me know, and then I'll mute everyone else and then keep you unmuted. So hold on. Okay, everyone should be unmuted.
I would like to know what's involved with the integration of FSS, what you see as being the benefits and what will actually take place.
So if in looking at the plan, you look at our timeline, we will be starting to look at the process of reviewing the support services programs in year one and in year two. And right now, we don't know what it's going to look like to change FSS. We are not sure. It's going to take, I think our process, I know what our process is going to look like. We're going to start talking to people who are in the program, who are currently in the program, who graduated from the program, who were previously in the program and didn't graduate. And we're going to have discussions with those people. And then we're also going to talk to our residents who haven't signed up for the program and to try to find out why, and our resident advisory communication committee. And so that's the first step, is to really talk about what that would look like. FSS looks very different and very different in a lot of different places. Some people they don't have the escrow program that we have here. They have a program where people get a stipend every time they complete a task. So that task could be completing a resume. It could be sending in job applications. It could be a wide variety of things. It would just look differently. And so, so to answer your question, we don't necessarily know what it's going to look like yet, but we're going to study it and see why we don't have as many people involved in the program as we would like, because we would like to get more people engaged in that program. I'm going to unmute now and see if that answered your question.
Vision of what could happen.
I'm sorry, I missed that first part.
I'm just wondering what you actually anticipate or what you hope would be the result of the integration.
I think that's a hard question to answer. I think my hope would be that we would have more people taking advantage of the program who want to be in the program, that we would develop a program that aligns with our community a little bit better. I don't know how realistic it is for some people. The escrow program is wonderful. We've had people graduate with $20,000. and more. But for some people, they aren't able to really fit in the HUD guidelines to escrow the way we would hope that they would. And so, you know, I'd like to see it so more people are in it, and then it really gives people the platform to do whatever they like next, which is whether they want to get a better job, whether they want to, you know, go into a home ownership program. You know, I think I would like to see it just reach more people. And right now we also, it's only head of households. And so that's very limiting for our residents. And so I'd like to look at that and see if that's something we could change, because I know for sure that we have households with more than one person working in the household, and the head of household might be somebody who's not able to work. They might be on disability, you know, so why not allow their son or daughter who wants to be in the program, who might live with them, who's turning 18, into that program. And so that would be where we would really want to start to look and see. That has always been, for me, a huge limitation of the program, that it has to be the head of household. And I just unmuted.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I don't understand about the FSS is a program that goes on while you're in the BHA. It's not like leading out of BHA necessarily.
That's correct.
I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. Did that answer your question?
No, you didn't. Not the last question.
Okay, so it wouldn't expand outside of BHA. Oh, I'm just going to mute for 1 second.
You unmute.
It wouldn't expand outside of the BHA program. I don't believe it would. I still think the HUD regulations would say that we needed to keep it for our residents, whether they're in Section 8 the RAD program, or one of our housing sites. However, it may allow us to have people who are currently not available to be in the program to be in the program, who live in our housing.
Okay, so the people that are housing now would not necessarily be let out of the program let out of the housing because of the program.
No, they wouldn't be moved out of the housing because of the program.
Okay, but that isn't the aim.
No, absolutely not. We don't aim to move anyone out of our housing unless they want to move out of our housing.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions from anyone in the community? I'd like to go back to Janet's question from staff, if there's any staff members who had anything that they'd like to add.
I would just like to say, as in the services program.
Hold on 1 sec. Lorelei, could you repeat that again? I'm just trying to unmute you. Can you, okay. Can you unmute yourself or no? Yeah.
Okay. So the one thing that I'd like to say, being in the services program, we've kind of talked a lot about this and the potential to offer so much more to our residents. And that's what we're really excited about, is being able to see how we can expand and really reach so many more people.
I'm going to unmute everybody to see if there's additional comments or questions.
I do.
Okay, hold on 1 second, David. I'm going to. Okay. Go ahead.
So just to reinforce or tag along what Lorelei was saying as far as strengthening our resident services, right now a lot of our housing programs live in silos, and a lot of the people that I support and work with in Section 8 aren't getting the kinds of supportive services that folks in our RAD, once known as public housing properties, are getting. So that barrier hopefully in the future will come down, and there will be more opportunities for those folks that are in the housing choice voucher and project-based voucher programs. Going back to one of the questions, I think it sounded like my friend Leslie was asking about FSS. Just for point of clarification, the FSS program currently is a wage-based program. In other words, HUD wants folks to go out and increase their incomes by way of working and increasing their incomes. But wouldn't the world be a whole lot sweeter maybe if we were able to support people and reinforce their positive choices and maybe completing a degree that they've always wanted to get a bachelor's in technology or animal husbandry or whatever. And I think that's just an example of how flexible with how flexible with MTW we can be with the FSS type program. To answer Janet's question, and not to take all the air out of the room, the most valuable opportunity I see, Janet, for the BHP moving to work is the opportunity to adjust our housing to meet the needs of the community. We've been so proscribed ways of administering our housing programs, but that's all we've known. So that paradigm change, I feel, is going to be really exciting, such as what Brian was saying, to help support more of those that are aging out of foster care. There's a great need for everyone for affordable housing in our community, and I think that with the MTW model, we're going to gain a lot more opportunities for providing low-income housing to the community. I'll mute now.
David, that's good to hear. Do you see it also as offering more integration with local government so that as the select board is thinking about housing in the community, they may think in terms of connection with Brattleboro Housing Partnerships?
Absolutely. We've always been, hence our name change, we've always been a believer in the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, and looking at all the service providers and partners that we have in the community, and to have more, certainly those maybe with some stronger financial backing than others, and those maybe with some properties that they're looking to do something with, and how we might be able to partner with them. It's just exciting that there are those possibilities, and before we would have never had the thought of it even being a possibility.
Janet, Christine, when I reviewed this whole program, the thing that caught my eye was that there was no downside. It does nothing but help give us better services for those we serve. When there's no downside to something, it really gets a thumbs up in my eye.
Christine, this is Donna.
Hi, Donna, go ahead.
The one thing I just wanted to say is it's a win-win for everyone. It's got so many pros and so many positive things that can happen. You guys have done so much work that it's really a reward, I think, for all of the efforts, and it just opens up opportunities to people that don't get to be involved right now or don't get to partake in any of the things that we could be offering that now we'll be able to.
Yes, I agree. And to speak to your point and Liz's point, I don't see downside. I think from my point of view, I get a little nervous because it's going to be some work. I mean, we're going to be rolling our sleeves up and doing some work, but I think that we're used to work. We're a very lean, small organization that serves a tremendous amount of people in our community. I think we forget that sometimes. I think our community forgets that sometimes, that we serve such a huge segment of the population in Brattleboro, and we work really, really hard all the time, and we don't take a lot of breaks. And so I'm excited about it. I'm a little nervous about the work, but I think that with the staff and with the right plan, which I believe we're putting in place, we're not going to be rushing into things. We're going to be doing this very deliberately, cautiously as we go forward, with lots of community involvement. And I believe that in our community, we can get a lot done when we have, the forces combined. And so my only apprehension is that, but it is a small amount. And I will say that when I got the notice, in the end of August, beginning of September, I said, what else is 2020 going to throw at me? Because as a new executive director, there's been a lot thrown at me that I did not expect. So I was surprised, but I am also very, very excited. And again, I'm not doing it alone. This isn't happening in a vacuum. This is happening with the involvement of our staff, with our resident advisory communication committee, with our board, and with lots of people in the community and residents. So I'm not nervous. I just want to put it out there that is wonderful, and we're excited. But there's always, and we're being realistic too. I guess I should say that. I'm going to unmute all. See if anybody wants to talk. You may be muted on your own. So if you want to say something, you might have to unmute yourself. Yep.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, hi.
Hi, this is Sherry. I did order, I did get a copy of the MTW draft. And I apologize. I admit that I just kind of scanned over it. I was wondering if, and again, I apologize. I'm joining the conversation late here. Could you, I wasn't able to really kind of glean the thrust of this plan, and I'm wondering if you could just say in maybe one or two sentences, what is the thrust of this draft?
Okay.
And maybe like 5 points of what you're trying to do, because I'm just not really clear what it is. Thank you.
So first of all, no need to apologize. It is a pretty hefty document with a lot of information in a short period, condensed, because we're only allowed a certain amount of pages. And so we had to put a lot of information. And so I just really appreciate that you're on this call. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. I really appreciate it. And so just the gist of this is that, I don't know how much if you heard the beginning, but I'm going to repeat it a little bit because it's a good thing for people to remember. So this is a program through HUD. However, it's a small program that not a lot of places have had the opportunity to apply for. And so we did apply a few years ago, and we have received the ability and the go-ahead. We won like sort of, HUD did a lottery. So we are now able to submit a plan. So we've been talking to residents. We took our historical information from a few years ago when we originally put our application in, and then we've been talking to residents. And so the real gist of this is it's going to allow us to not lose all of our regulations from HUD. HUD's still going to be in touch with us. They're still going to keep track that we're making sure that we're meeting the needs of low-income community members in Brattleboro, because that is what our mission is. That is our job. And so we are going to continue to house people who are low income and meet that need in this community. However, we are also, it would give us a little bit more flexibility in some of the administrative things we did. And none of these would change right away. We'd have to do a little studying of them. But one big piece is the recertification process, which I mentioned earlier, that we do yearly. We would change that to we would look at, for seniors and adults with disabilities, to change it to every 3 years. instead of once a year, because it's very laborious for our staff. It takes a lot of time and energy and manpower. And it also is a big bear for many of our residents to have to deal with. It's a lot of work and it's stressful. We've heard that time and time again, that the amount of anxiety that goes into that is very, very high. And so that would be an area that we would look at. We'd also be looking at our application process and streamlining that. Right now we have a 2-year wait list for our housing, which is very frustrating to me because I know that there are people on the bottom of that wait list who need to be housed right now. And we can't get to them because we really have to go through that wait list, which is great, except many people on the wait list are already housed and they don't need our housing anymore, but we have a very strict policy that we need to follow. We'll probably still have to follow that policy because it's a mandate, but we may streamline our application process and just relook at that and reallocate manpower to that list. And that way, hopefully we could get through it, some of the administrative pieces faster. And hopefully we would be able to house people faster because we all know that many people that apply for our housing need it right now. They don't need it in 2 years. And so that is a piece that is not only frustrating to myself, but also to our staff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you elaborate on how you came up with the title and what that refers to? I'm not really seeing what that means, and
I should have probably started with that. So moving to work is not my title. It's not. I don't like the title, and I would never have called this program this title. This title dates back to the early days of moving to work from a very long time ago when the program looked very different. This is not a work program. This is not going to ask people to go to work. This is not a program where we're going to have we're mandating people to go to work. It's just a title. And when we become an agency, we will probably change the program name. If we were to become an agency, yeah, it is a scary name. It doesn't. Believe me, we've thought about this a lot, and I thank you for bringing it up because I forget sometimes because I've said it so many times, but a lot of people haven't heard it, and so thank you for bringing it up. It is something that I should always start with when I start talking about this program. It's a great reminder.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So if
two questions.
I remember.
Hold on 1 second. I just the other person who was just asking is going to ask, and then you can ask next. Hold on 1 second. So the person who was speaking for a few minutes, ask your question again.
Me, Sherry.
Yes. Yep. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I actually had two questions. Maybe just take the question that you feel is most relevant. The first one is, what are you hoping to, I guess I'm not really sure what you're hoping to get from the participation of program participants. That's one question. And the other question is, or maybe just a comment, I heard something about changing the program so that people with aging parents can live together, and that sounds exciting to me. Elder care is really my main concern in life. Thinking about my mother and wondering about living with her and how that could ever work in the future. So answer whichever question you feel is most relevant. Thank you.
So I think they're both relevant. They're two, so we will be looking at our social service programs. Right now we have a wellness services support group, and we will be looking at how we can combine the people in that group, the FSS coordinators, SASH coordinators, the resident service coordinator, and see where we can create change. And we would be looking for a lot of feedback from our residents to see what needs need to be met. And so that's the first question. The second question is we will be looking at our housing stock and see what our needs are in our community. And I think you're right. I mean, I think most people know that Vermont tends to be it is an older state. We have an older population. Many people have taken care of their family members, myself included. And so I think that it's something I think a lot about, and I think that it is an area where we could really dive in and look. I don't know what it looks like yet. You know, again, this plan is really to get our foot in the door and to just start these conversations. We've never been able to start the conversations before because we've never had the opportunity to be in this program. But if we get our foot in the door, then we can really start those conversations and really look and see what the real needs are of our community. And I think that it would, you know, it would not be surprising to anyone if we found that multi-generational housing was a real need.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm sorry, the next caller, I heard you speaking. I'm sorry to cut you off. Did you have a question?
Yes. So if I remember in a previous meeting, one of the staff mentioning that HUD would no longer be on the lease. I would like to know who Brattleboro Housing Authority is answerable to.
So I think that when you were talking to that, and I think maybe Chris Hart, if she's on the call, could speak to this a little more. I think that was in reference to the RAD, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program that we went to. Is Chris on the call?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, sir, the answer is that the Brattleboro Housing Authority has already gone through a process to remove HUD from our titles and deeds, so that the housing authority actually owns the property now without an encumbrance of HUD. And the reason that we did that, and the reason that frankly HUD really wants housing authorities to do that, is it allows us now to seek funding and to use our properties more flexibly in a funding situation, which we couldn't do before. The question about who we report to or who's above us is the same as always. It's HUD. And HUD, even under the MTW program, MTW is a HUD program. It requires us to submit an annual plan that HUD has to approve, and HUD reviews every year. And they are still involved with us, and they still there are still rules that HUD has, especially around fair housing, anti-discrimination, that you don't waive. Yeah, those are just absolute, and those kinds of rules and others still apply to the housing authority. It's just that we are allowed to change some of the policies, provided we have gone through very extensive community and participant public processes. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from anyone on the call?
I want to comment, Christine, that
Yes.
I'm impressed with the range of answers and the range of concerns. I think calling this MTW instead of moving to work is a great help, and we'll all try to remember that. Also, to see this as a continuity, your first year tenure as executive director, as you say, what else are we going to throw at you? I think that this has been a good example of continuous work from the former executive director to you, and the mutual support you give each other really makes us really proud.
Thank you. It has been great, and the whole staff. So this isn't, there is a continuum. It's not, you know, we worked very hard on our strategic plan, and we'll be doing that again very soon. And so it is a continuum. Of course, I do things differently or have different questions, and I'm different. So, but I really do value the work that Chris has done. I don't think that we would be such a strong organization without, you know, her leadership for so long. And so I am grateful, and I do ask her lots of questions because I don't know. And I really believe that that's the most important thing when you're a leader, is to ask the right questions to the right people. So, and I appreciate the questions of our residents because they always bring up things that I did not think of. And so the hardest thing about COVID is not getting to see people the way I used to be able to be on properties more often and engaging with people face to face, which is my favorite thing to do. So I'm hopeful that that will change once COVID is over, but it is really challenging. So, but I also wanted to just tell briefly to the group sort of what the next steps are. And, you know, so I guess if there's any other questions, are there any other questions or comments before? So today is our public hearing. After today, we will feverishly take the comments that we've received, and we will finalize our plan, which we will send to the Board of Commissioners by the 13th, which is this Friday. They will then have 15 days to review the plan, and on the 24th, which is a Tuesday at 5 p.m., we'll finalize the plan. Finalize and adopt the plan if they see fit. We will then submit the plan to HUD no later than December 2nd, and so that gives us a lot of time. We have Jeanette White has been brought on to help us. She is great with writing policy and to help us with some of this. Jeanette, did you have any comments about the timeline at all that I'm missing?
No, thanks. I think that was it. I think the deadline for submitting is December 4th, and we're hoping to have it in well before that.
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, a participant here. I was a participant in the FSS program, and I'm wondering if this would be a good opportunity or venue to give my feedback about the program that might be helpful to the program designers, or if maybe another time and another place would be good for that.
You know, you're welcome to, but we will be opening up a meeting. We will be having meetings specifically with people who would like to share experiences about moving to work and detailing all of that. But if you want to share something, I'm sure that the people on the call, especially our board, they might have some interest in this. If you want to share a quick piece, if you don't, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe another time.
Okay, whatever you're comfortable with. And you know, I think if we were to do that, we probably wouldn't do it. We probably wouldn't record it and put it on BCTV. So you might feel a little more comfortable sharing private, information that you might not want to share with everybody. So that would be fine. But we will be, we will definitely, that is such a big program, and it's a program that I really see so much value in, and I know all the work that has gone into it, and I'm always amazed at some of the success stories. So I think that I'm really excited about looking and diving in and hearing what people have to say. I'm really excited about it. I think we're going to get a lot of great feedback.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Christine, hearing no further comments, I think it's important for people to remember that noon next Monday, the 16th, is the annual meeting of Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. So I hope, since we're all going to be meeting virtually in this way, that people who are attending today will also remember to attend for the annual meeting. And I'm looking forward to hearing about the good work that the staff has been doing, particularly around this confusing COVID experience. I'm a psychotherapist, so I've had one client tell me this morning, you know, it's easier seeing you this way than having to come to your office. So I'm hoping we will all come together virtually for our annual meeting at noon on the 16th.
Yes, I do as well. And we'll be putting that information will be up on our website today. And so anyone that's interested should know we'll be going through Zoom, which will be easier. And we have an 800 number for that. So so we were trying to get that worked out, but we have that information and it will be going out today. So
good.
Yeah.
Do I need to officially close this hearing?
Yes, if there's no additional comments, yes, do you need to close the meeting?
Okay.
Make a motion to close.
Is there a motion from commissioners to close? Elizabeth and Byron? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. This hearing for M2W is now closed. I appreciate everyone's participation in it, and I'm especially grateful to the good work from our executive director, Christine.